Greetings, colleagues and friends of the Chinese Language Division of the American Translators Association. Welcome and thank you for stopping by our division's podcast. We are recording this episode live in Boston, where the ATA 66 annual conference is taking place. Today, talking with my illustrious co-host Rony Gao is our very own Sijin. In 2024, Sijin's professional journey had been nothing short of adventurous and extraordinary. Additionally, being a part of the ATA community definitely helped her pivot. She came out of her shell and found the colors that were missing from her rainbow, as Sijin so vividly described it. Now she is shining in all her colors. Please stay tuned to find out more as the conversation unfolds, and I am sure you will find Sijin's experience inspiring and motivating. Rony, take it away.
All right, Sijin, welcome to our show. So good to see you again after a year. I think last time we chatted in person was at the last year's ATA conference in Portland, right?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Rony. This is such an honor.
Sijin, you've had quite a year.
Yes, quite an exciting ride. Yes.
Well, we'll get there to talk about your journey, but why don't you give our listeners a quick self-introduction, your background, and your professional trajectory as a linguist?
Sure. So I first started out in the language service profession back in 2014. I was a fresh graduate with my first master's degree in ethics, peace, and global affairs from American University in Washington, D.C. And I'm still based in Washington, D.C. area even to this day. And through my background in international and global affairs, I was connected to a lot of organizations working on research and advocacy issues. And really through those internships, I found out these organizations that they actually needed people to translate their research reports into Chinese. And they also needed people to research some Chinese resources. So that's really when I realized, hey, this could be a good opportunity for me to marry two of my passions, right? Because I have my undergrad background in English. I was an English major in Sichuan International Studies University in Chongqing. And then I have this master's in international relations. So I thought if I could make a freelance career happen and combining these two, that could potentially make a really fun career. I eventually branched out in 2018 into subtitling. That was also really by chance. Somebody just sent me a message on LinkedIn, really. But my work ended up, getting featured on Netflix. So that was really like a really easy step for me to get into the industry, and I really took to it like a fish to water. Subtitling felt so easy to me, and I think it spoke to a part of my nature of being really empathetic and being able to embody characters really well. Later on, I started to have this itch to try interpreting. I actually tried interpreting very early on in my career, but I was really scared. I thought speaking extemporaneously just really scary, and I did not feel confident in my ability to cope with a lot of the challenging situations. But later, I matured a lot in terms of my mindset, and also thanks to you, Rony and Eric, and many people here in the CLD community who pushed me to see that side of me and ignite that dream. That's why I decided to try for Miss. I tried for the advanced entry exam back in 2024, I believe. So I skipped the first year. Last year was just me, based in Monterey doing my studies, and I graduated in May, and now I am a working conference interpreter, which I'm really happy to report.
Thank you. Wow, that is, like I said, that has been quite a journey. So, Sijin, you've taken us through the three stages, if you can put it that way,
Yeah.
of your career, starting out as a translator and then subtitler, now a full-on conference interpreter as well, trained at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies. Why don't you give us a sense of how much of your work comes from each of the three?
I will say my research organization work is probably 30%.
And that's mostly translation.
Yeah, mostly translation and mostly into Chinese. And then my subtitling work, I will say probably 60%. I do a lot of subtitling and then the rest of it interpreting as I'm just starting out in conference interpreting.
Right. Well, tell us a bit more about how your involvement with the American Translators Association, or ATA, played a role in navigating this career shift.
Yeah, this is such a good question because I feel like in the very beginning, I wasn't really involved in this community, and the watershed moment really came after the pandemic. So I decided to come out of my shell a little bit. In 2022, I believe that was ATA 63. That was when I decided to present for the first time because I have accumulated a lot of insights and experiences that I want to share with people in terms of subtitling. So I worked really hard to put together that presentation, and that was really when we met, right, Rony? Like we met previously once before in DC,
In the
but
DC, yeah,
yeah,
2017.
but I was pretty much in my little cocoon, and mindset wise, I was very much like retreating from a lot of challenges. Like I alluded to earlier, I did try both interpreting and translation in the very beginning. I mean, I did get pretty positive feedback from my interpreting work, but I was not confident in my abilities, and I decided that translation was a safer choice because I have the luxury of time and the luxury of failing silently. Whereas interpreting, you stumble a little bit, right? It's not perfect work. So I think my perfectionism was driving me to seek this quote unquote comfort. But I think it also made me retreat into a shell. I was saying no to a lot of good opportunities. I just didn't think I was up for it. I rather choose something that I felt 100% or even 150% sure. But how many things in this world, in this life, can you be 150% sure? So everything came into sharp focus for me during the pandemic. I sometimes tell people that it felt like I used to be a rainbow, and then every time I said no to opportunity, one of the colors got removed from my spectrum. So in the pandemic, everything was gray. And including myself, because I said no to so many things and I didn't really know who I was anymore. So that was like the time for me to really reflect on my journey. And that's when I realized, gosh, I really needed to break out of this. So that's when at 1863, I met you, Rony, and I met Eric. And I don't even know why, but two of you, without having talked to each other prior, just decided to tell me that I should become an interpreter. Actually, I'm really curious at what you saw in me that day because you just said that you should be an interpreter. And I really took that to heart.
Until this day, I still have fond memories of I think it was in Los Angeles annual conference of the ATA where we just had this conversation, or perhaps multiple conversations about the next chapter for your career. I don't know how to answer the question because to me, it was a natural next step for someone like you, having already done so much and so many different things in the language industry and having this, I guess, natural talent. That would be, my way to put it. But in any case, you've already mentioned that in 2024, you finally took the step and applied to be an interpreting student, which meant at the time that you also had to move from DC to Monterey, California, which was not a small feat.
Right. Yeah, I had to give credit to Eve, Eve Zhu, who also graduated from this institute.
Who was also at that conference.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So that's how I met her. And I think it was one day she had an engagement in DC and she reached out to me and she said, "Hey, let's grab lunch." So yeah, we just naturally started to talk about going to Miss. And I was like, but my husband is here, my cat is here. And, moving to Monterey just feels so impossible. And then Eve says, there are people who came all the way from China to do this. And honestly, if you can do the advanced entry, it will just be a year, and a year is going to pass by no matter what. I think that just really inspired me. That really like put a fire under me in a way that I was like, That's true. And also in combination of my whole self-reflection about stepping away from challenges and being really fearful, I just thought that would be actually a really nice opportunity for me to, hey, just try. Let's just try add more colors back to this rainbow, right? Let's try new things. So yeah, that's really when I decided to just do this. And I will say everything really just felt so perfect because ATA 64, I believe, was the year that Dean Burien and Professor Julie Johnson from MIS also did a presentation on their teaching philosophies at MIS. And I remember Dean Burien had this table. I told her that I was a prospective student, and then she was really friendly, and she asked me to come to the table and talk about this program. So everything just felt like so perfect.
Mm-hmm. Well, Sijin hasn't talked about her accomplishments during the school year. In fact, she competed as the only student being selected at the cross-strait interpreting competition, 海峡两岸口译大赛, which brings together top interpreting students from different interpreting schools across the strait, obviously, both in mainland China and Hong Kong and Taiwan, and in this case, the United States as well, which was definitely one of the highlights of your journey at the Middlebury Institute. What you still remember about this whole competing experience and how you felt after winning first prize?
Yeah, Rony, I remember I reached out to you when I got the email from our program chair that I was selected to participate in this contest. And I remember you got a top prize from the interpreting contest, also on behalf of Miss while you were there. And I particularly reached out to you, A, because you had that experience, and B, I was terrified because the competition was in May 10th, I believe. And that will mean that the contest will literally be sandwiched between my final exams. And we all know how important final exams are. So that was already a lot of pressure. I just wasn't sure, like, I can fly to Hong Kong, tackle the jet lag, and then perform well at a contest, and then come back to Monterey and finish up my exams. I just think that's absolutely insane.
It
And
was insane. But to me, it is, well, first of all, I felt privileged that you reach out to me and ask for my advice. But to me, it was a no-brainer. I remember one of the points I made in answering your question was, if you can do this, you'll be able to do anything
yes,
after you graduate.
that's exactly why I decided to go. Just because of my mindset shift. Like now I am really embracing challenges and I do believe in stress testing myself. It's almost like you have to put yourself in some extreme, crazy circumstances to understand your potential and to build that inner confidence. And for me, that's exactly what the Hong Kong trip accomplished because I literally arrived Friday night in Hong Kong at my hotel like 9 p.m. or something, and the competition was next day. So I got up at 6 or 7 to get ready for the competition, and the competition was a whole day, so all the way to like 5, 6 p.m. And the fact that I survived and also took home a prize, that just meant so much to me. That cemented my confidence in the real world because now that I'm a working conference interpreter, there were also assignments where I feel like the old Sijin would have retreated from again, thinking, there's no way I can do this. But hey, I've made it through all of them and I'm now just really proud of myself for really being able to conquer these challenges. And now frequently my mantra is that if anyone can do this, it's me.
Exactly. You are this full rainbow
Oh,
that can handle any challenge.
thank you. I just feel like now I really recognize that the circumstances are fair to everyone. I used to feel terrified of the uncertainty of interpretation. But hey, nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows what the speaker is going to say next. It's actually fair play. Everybody has the same information or lack thereof. So ultimately, it's what you have in terms of your ability or your other types of capabilities that will literally carry you through any challenges. And Rony, you play tennis, so I assume you know the famous quote by Billie Jean
Billie Jean.
King,
Yeah. Privilege.
pressure is
Pressure is a
privilege. And yeah, like when I first saw those words, I was like, this is exactly what I've been trying to put into words. Like previously, I was so afraid. I was just terrified of everything. But now I truly see challenges and pressure as a positive. Like it's a good sign that I'm feeling overwhelmed, that I am having uncertainty, because that means that this is an opportunity that's going to stretch me. Because otherwise, I will always be in this comfort zone. You know, if you don't use your muscles, you lose them, right? Like that you just never get the chance to expand and grow.
Well, absolutely. Not only was the prize and all of your accomplishments well deserved, we just wanted to say congratulations one more time
Thank you.
for all of the amazing things that you've achieved. We've talked about Miss, but then we heard the shocking news that the school was going to close its doors. What are your reactions to the news?
Oh, I was so shocked. I could not believe what I was reading when I got the email. Because when I was there, I didn't see this coming at all. Dean Burien actually recently put out a video, right, just sort of explaining more about the decision, and it aligned with some of my assumptions as well, which is that a lot of people, especially on social media, like they're equating this closure as a death knell to this profession, and how AI has conquered humanity and we're just going to lose our jobs. And that's definitely not the case. And in fact, our program has been very strong. And to quote Dean Burien, it was a collateral damage because, you know, MISS is not just the interpretation program. MISS is the graduate school branch of Middlebury. So we're just impacted in that larger decision. And I'm still hopeful that there will be a new institutional home that's willing to host our program. It's actually even more important to have truly capable human conference interpreters who know how to bridge the gap, right? Whether it's linguistic or cultural, to make the conversations, the negotiations, the important communications feel so seamless and effortless. And that takes some real skills. That's not just language skills. That's also people skill. That's also emotional intelligence. It's how you are able to perceive the dynamics of the conversation. And I don't think AI is quite there. In fact, now talking about the Hong Kong experience, even during the competition, there was a screen with the AI version of the interpretation projected onto screen, and it was not good, you know, especially when you compare the output with the brilliant performance given by the contestants. And you can clearly see that with the human elements, especially with the idiomatic elements, the pop culture references, those things will definitely trip up AI. So I do think there's still a lot of value in really amazing human interpreters and translators.
Right, I agree. Just as you said, there's a lot of misinformation about what is and what is not really going on in the field. Well, I just wanted to mention one more thing about Sijin. I really like your professional website.
Oh,
I thought it was the perfect blend of professionalism with a human touch. It was really well done. If you don't mind, we're gonna include that in our show notes so that our colleagues can also take a look.
sure. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Anything else, Sijin, that you think future language professionals must know or must develop?
I would say the ability to leverage AI to our advantage and also client education. I think the challenges we have are not so much AI, it's more about the perceived omnipotence of AI. A lot of people think that AI can do everything. A lot of people are not very familiar with how our jobs are done. They assume that translation or interpretation is just conversion, you know, from A to B, B to C. So how to tell our clients that translation interpretation is so much more than that, and how AI can make disastrous mistakes, and we don't want something really bad to happen before the clients decide to come back to us and for the humans to fix the mistakes. We hope that the clients already see the value of what we do and see that our ability to use AI can help us work more productively to their advantage. So that would be my sincere hope for clients to see the value of our work, and also for the translators and interpreters to truly learn how to leverage AI so that we can work more productively and more accurately and more effectively.
Right. Well, thank you, Sijin, for your time and for so many insights. You've been a very valuable member of the Chinese language division, and we hope to have you contribute even more.
Thank you so much, Rony. This has been a pleasure, and I want to just extend my gratitude to you for making this new chapter of my career happen.
You're very welcome. Thank you.